Chris, I know you spent your weekend watching the Grammys or Emmys or whatever in part, but 3 million documents. I don't even think ChatGPT for the Democrats was going to go through all 3 million of these. And they're already saying it's not enough. And I think that we understand that that just means they control F for Trump, didn't see Trump in there and said, okay, we want more. So
that's right.
When will this be sufficient for the Democrats, do you think?
Well, it'll never be sufficient for the left because they just want to argue. You know, Hillary Clinton's and have a fight and accuse you of things that they know are false that have been litigated long ago. And, you know, the reality, one of the great old sayings about the Democrats and the left is they're not happy unless they're not happy. And the only thing that makes them happy is being unhappy. And with the Epstein files, you know, here's Bill Clinton. You know, Donald Trump kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago, kicked him out of someplace else, Jeffrey Epstein. They don't have anything. They've gone through it. And you're right. They just search for Trump's name and the 3 million documents, and whatever they come up with, that's what George Stephanopoulos, White House press secretary, for Democrat president, of course. And honestly, and I guess what we learned yesterday is that Barack Obama's chief counsel, the White House counsel, is all over the Epstein files. But that's not going to be in the New York Times, and CNN is not going to cover that because they're propagandists and not journalists.
Well, you were just talking about this and how they would control F for Trump, and we've seen that the left, the Democrats, liberals of the media, they've made it their mission to look for one name and one name only, maybe also Elon Musk, but that name is Donald Trump. And the president made his feelings known on Truth Social, writing that not only wasn't I friendly with Jeffrey Epstein, but based upon information that has just been released by the Department of Justice, Epstein and a sleazebag lying author named Michael Wolff conspired in order to damage me and or my presidency. So much for the radical left's hope against hope, some of whom I'll be suing. Additionally, unlike so many people that like to talk trash, I never went to the infested Epstein Island. Almost all of these crooked Democrats and their donors did. Now, Jason, we've talked last week about the bipartisan vote to hold the Clintons, Bill and Hillary Clinton, in contempt of Congress for blowing off the Epstein investigation here. From the latest document, look, I'm not going to pretend I read subpoenas. 3 million documents, subpoenas. This is continuously bad news for the former president, Bill Clinton, and the First Lady, Hillary Clinton. What are Democrats trying to make of the latest 3 million documents? What's his name? Jamie Raskin said that there's a cover-up here. Do they want another 3 million documents to pretend to go through?
Well, so there are some issues. For example, the Midas Touch podcast, they actually spoke to a woman who said that they didn't release everything because she made a report to the FBI and it was not included in the 3 million documents. Trump was also mentioned 1,000 times in the 3 million documents, and there are some horrific things that he is accused of. I don't believe there's any evidence to corroborate it that I've seen thus far, but he's certainly accused of some really horrific things. Peter Thiel is another one that you're forgetting, is also in those documents. But when we say, oh, this has been litigated over, you know, when Chris makes the comment that this has been litigated over and over again, none of it's been litigated. That's the point, is none of these people have been held to account for the, you know, what's happened to maybe dozens, thousands of women. That's part of the reason why this comes out. And if it's Bill Clinton who has asked for all of these documents to be released, like whether it's Bill Clinton or it's Donald Trump or whomever,
I will say,
if
it's in Midas Touch, you can rest assured you can't do it. Mercy, you dealt with Michael Wolff in the first Trump admin. What do you make of Trump invoking that villain of your past?
Well, I mean, for him, it's all about the gossip, right? And it's a lot of these sources close to the White House in a lot of cases. It's all to create a false narrative or a negative narrative of Donald Trump. But what I'd like to see is Bill Clinton at a hearing in Congress to answer a lot of these questions. And I think the DOJ is making the right step of saying, hey, come on in. You're invited to come read any of the unredacted materials regarding the Epstein files. And I think the Democrats are just keep stepping into this. I mean,
and past this prologue, Tiana, we're going to be discussing this next Groundhog Day as well. Will anything have, we learned anything new in the next year about
this? Because no one wants to admit. The unpopular thing to say is, in terms of like the tiers of badness of associating with Epstein, you have Steve Bannon that was staying BFFs with Jeffrey Epstein up until the very end versus both Trump and Clinton. There is no evidence that they hung out with Jeffrey Epstein after 2008 when it was known that he was soliciting prostitution from a minor, which is another word for rape.
Information. Truth is freedom. is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.